All right, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live Q&A, very appropriately titled How Not to Lose Your Shit as a Vegan, Advice for Dealing with Difficult Emotions and Scenarios as a Vegan. My name is Rhiannon Hinkleman. Whoops, just set up my camera here. My name is Rhiannon Hinkleman, and I am the Impact to Giving Coordinator here with the Toronto Vegetarian Association. I also happen to be the Volunteer Coordinator for Veg Food Fest this year. In case any of you haven't heard already, all of the lives we are doing this week are actually part of our digital programming for Veg Food Fest this year. So if you haven't already checked them out, please go ahead and do so. They're all going to be amazing. We have one even tonight after I'm done. So I'm very, very excited to be hosting this year. Before we get started, I do want to do a quick land acknowledgement. So the Toronto Vegetarian Association is on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Anishnabeg, Haudenosaunee, Chippewa and Huron-Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the New Credit. So now to introduce our guest, I'm very, very excited tonight because not only is she an amazing vegan activist, educational speaker, she also happens to have been a personal coach of mine, a mentor of mine, Miss Kimberly Carroll. So I'm just going to let her, I see she's already waiting in the live, I'm going to get her on in just a moment to introduce her. Kimberly Carroll is a coach for changemakers, a campaign strategist with Animal Justice, and the director of the Animal Justice Academy, as well as director with the Toronto Vegetarian Food Bank. She co-created the original Why Love One But Eat the Other campaign for the transit ads and in Canada, and she is one of the founders of Mercy for Animals Canada, helping to bring the first undercover farmed animal investigations to television. As a coach, Kimberly helps activists, social entrepreneurs, and mission-driven leaders who want to make a bigger difference in the world with their inner shifts, high-performance habits, and strategies to take their important work to the next level. She's helped empower thousands of animal advocates and counseled those in high-stress activist positions, like undercover investigators. So, with that very impressive introduction, let's get her started. Kimberly, let's see. There she is.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Ree. Here, let me
How
adjust.
are you?
There we go. I'm great, darling. So good to see you.
Good to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, excellent. I'm so happy to be here and to see some of our friends joining us here. We're getting Veg Fest started off here online.
So exciting.
I know. I'm really thrilled that you're able to have a hybrid event this year. This is amazing. So,
So
and
cool. Thank you for joining.
My pleasure. I don't want vegans to lose their shit. So
no. I was going to say it's very appropriately titled. All the questions we have are questions that I've had. I'm sure you've had them when you were first making your transition as well. So it's going to be a good one.
Oh, excellent. And hey, everybody in the that's joining us, I'd love to say hi so we know you're here and yeah, are you excited? Are you excited to get some stuff off your chest?
Yes, I think process some heavy emotions. I think
that's right. That's right.
Well, do you want to just jump right on into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's do it. So this one is one that I wish I had known when I first transitioned. I wish I'd had some advice on this. How do I respond to stupid questions about veganism and turn them into a positive interaction? So we've all had the questions, if you were on a deserted island, what would you do? But what about plants? Plants feel pain. We get a lot of these questions. Sometimes they're well-meaning, sometimes not so much. What do you recommend people do for that?
Yeah, the amount of times I hear what would you do on a desert island? You'd think that vegans are getting stranded on desert islands like every day. So as they always said in school, there's no stupid questions. And I mean, there truly are some annoying questions. But I feel like every question or comment that someone gives you is an opportunity to engage for the animals. Okay. And I try to think of it as a privilege, even again, if it's like a question or a comment you've heard a million times. So, I know that some people ask these questions like, don't plants feel pain? A lot of people do it to be smart ass, to challenge you. But some folks are curious, and I really like to err on the side of caution and just go, okay, maybe this is a truly curious person, and deal accordingly, at least to start with. Now, one of my mantras as an animal rights activist and as a vegan is treat everybody like they're a potential ally. Okay. And so instead of like getting pissed off and going, oh my God, and just like slamming into this person and, just try to see that if somebody is challenging you, they are probably either just feeling very threatened, like that you're taking away something that they feel like they really need, and they're convinced that they're really going to lose, or even probably more so, this person has a lot of guilt, okay, or this is nagging at them already. So this is already a piece that's there and rolling around in their head. And if you can make this into a positive interaction that can draw them closer to being a potential ally. I mean, they might not become it in that exchange, but you might be the first of 20 or 21, which I think is the magic number for sort of a person hearing a message to shift. So, you could be a positive interaction. So I'm a big believer in, having tight answers for stupid questions.
Right.
And I actually I keep a document, an ongoing document, a live document with all of those questions that I've gotten asked so many times. And I've made myself some succinct answers that feel good to me. And I've just used them over and over again. And especially in the social media universe, when you're doing it often through writing comments, why reinvent the wheel for every time somebody asks the same question? Okay. And it just helps you to become more confident as an advocate for animals, as a vegan. And it really does help you bring answers that are going to make those people go, whoa, stop. So I'll usually come up with a succinct answer, like if they say plants don't feel pain, well, you'll say, well, plants don't have a central nervous system, they don't have pain receptors or nerves, and even if plants did suffer the way animals do, the goal is to reduce plant pain. Okay, if that is your goal, then you should be eating a plant-based diet, because a diet with animals raised for meat, eggs, and dairy consumes massive amounts of plants and at a huge caloric loss, right? And you can say, oh no, eating a pound of meat takes 10 pounds of grain. Okay, so there's your answer that's like, boom, okay, shut them down. Just as far as that stupidity goes. But then it's really great if you can follow up with some sort of question that might get them thinking deeper. Okay, so you could ask, like, is there a particular experience you've had with plant life that's made you think that a plant feels more pain than, say, I know your two dogs that I know you love? Like, and not to be sarcastic, but just to go, like, is there something that's happened that's made you think that? And then in their head, they're going, okay, of course, I see my dogs feel pain. I don't know that hibiscus flower feels pain. Although this is a scientific experiment, we could have a whole nother conversation. But, and so the other thing I have to say is you need to be kind to yourself, though, Ree. If after a round of interactions, it's become very clear that this is not a person that wants to listen, this isn't a person that wants to have a sort of goodwill back and forth, then bail out. Okay, be gracious. Don't say, I'm taking my ball and getting out of here. Just say, something like, you seem like you have a pretty staunch position, so I'm going to take my science somewhere else. Something like that. Or great talking to you. See ya. So those are some of my tips on those annoying questions.
Yeah, and it's always hard to do that, right? Once you reach a point where you realize this isn't going any further with somebody, to take that time to say, I feel like this conversation isn't going to go any further. Thank you for listening to me, and just move on. I know for me, the instinct to try and keep a conversation going has happened before, and sometimes you just gotta pick and choose your battles, right? Understand some people are more receptive than others, and I think that's great. Come at it with kindness, right? Yeah.
Right. And I was taught something very early on in my activism. It was, and I don't know how accurate this is, but it's an interesting little thing to keep in mind. And that is that someone needs to hear the same, a similar message 21 times before it creates a shift. And so maybe you're just the first. Or maybe you're the fifth. I mean, hey, it feels great when you're the 21st and you see a shift overnight. But I have seen those shifts in those conversations when somebody starts with bacon and I try this approach. all of a sudden by the end, somebody's saying, yeah, I do really feel badly for the animals. I've seen videos and, and I get it. And I'm sorry, like things like that. So never say never.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great response, right? You never know who you're going to touch. So
yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely.
And for everyone watching as well, I forgot to mention, we're going to do about 20 minutes or so of pre-asked questions, but please submit any questions you have for Coach Kimberly in the comments. My lovely coworker, Sarah, is taking a look at those, and she's going to submit any to me as well that we have. We're going to try and answer as many as we can. So please let her know any questions you have.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So,
and just for folks, just the questions, in case you're like wondering what kind of questions, it's just really anything that you might be having trouble navigating in terms of being a vegan in your life, in this world, in your workplace, in relationships, and animal advocacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Kimberly's got answers for everything. She's a wealth of wisdom, so please ask. Okay, awesome. Well, another question we got a lot around this topic was strategies for coping with unsupportive family or friends, people who are even outright unsupportive. How do you cope with that knowledge that your loved ones aren't on board with something that's so important for you? There can be a lot of pain with that, a lot of frustration. It feels like you're banging against a wall sometimes. What do you recommend for people to try and work through those feelings?
Well, let's just talk about how to approach that situation from a few different places. So my first question to somebody who would come to me and say, my family makes jokes, they're rude, or they're not supportive, they don't supply vegan food for me, whatever it is. The first thing I would ask is, have you actually talked to them? Like, not just retorted sort of angrily or under your breath, but have you sat them down at a time that isn't activated, it's not the dinner table, and just said, to them, from your heart, in a bridge building way, talk to them. And in that talk, one of the things I would recommend is, again, speaking from the heart, okay? Not laying a bunch of facts and figures on them, but really, talking about your experience, and, why veganism means so much to you, how hard it is to be a person that sort of goes against the grain, and how deeply you care about this. And the other thing to remember in these conversations is to really appeal to that part of them that you want to empower, okay? And not the part of them that's being small and closed-minded, but the aspirational part of them. So, for example, if you're talking to your brother and your brother loves, rescues any animal he finds injured, just say, I know you have such a soft heart for animals. So I think you're going to want to know what I know about, what's happening in factory farms. I just think I know your heart, and I know that it would make you sad and surprised as I was. And also to talk about the reasons that you're vegan, not the reasons they should be vegan, but the reasons you're vegan, okay? Because if they're your family and friends, and they really are, you're truly your family and friends, and there is a loving dynamic. I mean, some of us just, I'm not just saying me, because I actually I'm very lucky. I have a very loving, supportive family, but right. I know a lot of people who have very dysfunctional families, and they're not naturally supportive, and this is just one other symptom of that, right? But if you generally have supportive friends and family, then it's just about really being clear and direct about how much this means to you, because they're going to want to support you in some way. And the other thing that is important is that a lot of this sort of derision can come from again, feeling threatened, like there is nothing short of them going vegan that's going to make you happy. And I know deep down inside that it probably is how we feel, but that's what we generally would love. That's what would make our hearts sing. But on the other hand, there's such a thing as vegan allies. Now, so Dr. Melanie Joy talks about this, and that is the whole idea that there are some steps on the way to being a vegan, and that is so a vegan ally, for example. I have a lot of vegan allies in my family. I have lots of vegans in my family too, wonderfully, but I have vegan allies, and those those are people who support my work. They appreciate my work. They are even proud of the work I do for animals. They will, maybe it shows up as when we're together, they eat vegan with me. Maybe it's just that they make sure that there are good vegan options for me when we're together. And sometimes basically even the smallest vegan ally step takes them from the place of being the enemy and the combatant, and it places them in an ally place where they can let their guard down. Okay, they're on the good side now, and they start identifying with you and your work, as opposed to fighting it. And then that can lead to, I have also family and friends who are now doing small animal activism things. Even though they might not have gone vegan, they're dipping their toe into that. And you know what happens when that happens. You just go further and further and further. So that's, a really important thing to understand, that you don't need them to, go all the way right away, and maybe never. And that's the other thing I want to say, Ree, is when it comes to close family and friends, sometimes you have to give yourself a pass. Okay. I think especially when we become newly vegan, we're like, I have to convert everybody around me or I'm a failure. I'm failing the animals. But the fact is, sometimes you aren't the right messenger for those that are closest to you. Okay. You know how your really close family and friends, you can't tell them things. They'll take it too personally, or the dynamics are too weird. Right.
Yeah.
I have a friend who told me a story how for years she's been telling her mom to go vegan because of dairy, like the dairy and the health aspect and the animal welfare aspect and everything. And her mom was like, no, it's just like very solid against her. Well, a few months ago, she was visiting her mom, and her mom said, yeah, so I'm not eating dairy anymore. And she's like, what? And she said, yeah, I was talking to this woman in the elevator, and she was telling me about this something called the China study and everything. And I got rid of dairy. And my friend was like, you have got to be kidding.
Right. Yeah.
But she wasn't the right messenger for her mom. Okay. And so spending all of this time and angst trying to change those that are in your inner circle, when there are thousands of people who are more receptive to that message, it just might not be the right use of your time. And we often, as vegans, feel like we've already got the world against us. We don't need to be having all these interpersonal battles as well. I think it makes it really hard for us to be incredibly effective vegans. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And that goes along so well with something I've heard you say a lot, which I've really taken to heart, is we need a vegan club, not a vegan world, right? And
other way around. We need a vegan world.
Or a vegan world, not a vegan club. Sorry.
yeah, exactly.
Don't want the other. Yeah, vegan world, not a vegan club.
And that actually is from the late Tommy Raskin, who said that. I'm working for a vegan world, not a vegan club.
Right. And it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's a great answer for that, honestly. And I've even found that myself with my own family. My dad went vegan right away. We were all vegetarian, raised vegetarian. Dad went vegan right away when I was like, I think this going vegan will more fully align with your values and your morals. And my mom dug her heels in with dairy. And it really frustrated me for a long time, because if my dad could do it and my mom was already vegetarian, why couldn't she do it? And it led to a lot of arguments. And eventually, when I just stepped back and let her think about it on her own time and came out from a place again of kindness, she's now ditched it, and it just took some extra time for her.
Yeah. So I've had the same experience of sort of trying to force it, and then when I just gave it space and led by example, how people just one by one eventually get there.
Yeah, they get there on their own.
And if they don't, again, that's just not your battle.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it.
So.
That's it exactly. Pick and choose your battles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that actually segues very well with our next question, which is about how to kind of cope and manage with boundaries when you're a vegan at a non-vegan dinner or event or party. Maybe you're the only vegan there. There's a lot of boundaries that can come up when you have to really put your foot down about maybe people pressure you to be polite, it's a party and they made this food for you, or maybe people make jokes at the table and make you feel uncomfortable, at your expense sometimes. How do you recommend people go about that tricky situation when maybe you're the only one there?
Yeah, that's really tough. First of all, always travel in packs. No, vegans should always travel in packs.
Right.
Strength in numbers, no. But well, one of the things I completely relate to this because I think the most often I ever get asked about why I'm vegan or why I don't eat meat or whatever is at the dinner table, usually a holiday. It's usually a holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, whatever it is.
Right.
And there is just, it's almost guaranteed. Oh, so how come you don't eat meat? How come you're vegan? And I'm like, oh my God. So what I usually do is I say to them, I'd love to talk to you about this. So it's actually, something I'm very passionate about. But if we talk about it now, I'm guarantee you're going to lose your appetite. So let's talk afterwards. And then you make sure you follow up, because not that I don't care if people lose their appetite, but you also don't want to be that one person that like the party pooper who ruins everything. Okay. Like maybe in the bigger picture, we want to be the one who shuts down bad behavior. But at that moment when it's already happening, right afterwards, you take that, take advantage of that and have that conversation. I mean, jokes can be very passive aggressive. But I also find humor is a really great way to navigate through things on our side of things. So, it's good to have your own little sort of stack of jokes that, comebacks that you have that are, that can make people laugh. If they're talking about making fun of, eating, animals and all that's the bacon and everything, something like, oh yeah, torturing and devouring animals, such a funny topic. I love it. Things like that. Or I love with, bacon. I'm like, my baby little piggy close to my heart, nibbling on my ear, things like that. So there's ways to just, because vegans, unfortunately, we are labeled sometimes as oversensitive and hysteric and everything.
Killjoy.
Yeah. Again, if you want to get angry and you want to yell at somebody, I'm not, like, that's your business, but I'm just talking about what is sort of most effective for your longevity as an activist and what can sort of be effective for the movement. I'm not dictating how anybody should, respond necessarily. Sometimes you got to get mad. Sometimes you got to put your foot down in a really, tough, loud way. So I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying if you really want to kind of move the needle in a way that has long lasting effect, these are some of the ways I've seen work for myself and a lot of people. So, again, if you aren't naturally sort of a humorist, I mean, check out Vegan Sidekick. I mean, Vegan Sidekick, the cartoon, has some of the best punchlines around veganism. I'm going to put a shout out for Jamie, one of our colleagues who works at Animal Justice Academy. His Instagram account is another effing vegan. So another EFFING vegan. And he has the best memes. And again, that just gives you ideas of some comebacks. And humor really is a powerful tool, an effective tool, because it allows you to maintain the power. Okay. When you've got humor, you've still got power. Right. Yeah. And the other thing, I don't know. I think we talked about this before, Rhiannon, is that some people feel at events pressured to eat non-vegan food, even though they're vegan, even though this is meaningful to them. And they feel like they should be polite. Okay. And I know we are talking about ways to be effective, but there's a very fine line, and being, I think it's pretty lame to basically choose being polite over causing animal suffering. Okay. There's so many other ways out of it. All you need to say is, oh, thank you. I wish I could, but I can't. Be gracious. I wish I could, but sorry. It's my thing. Or you can make a joke out of it. Sorry, vegan police are watching me, whatever it is. Just say it looks wonderful. If there weren't, the eggs in it, I'd be all over it. Okay.
Right.
Things
Yeah.
like that. And of course, it's always the safest to bring your own food. It's, it's all, if you're not sure about the situation you're going into, either bring your own food, bring enough for everybody, or talk with the host beforehand. Okay. And just say, hey, I'm just making sure, I'm vegan. I don't want to, I'm sorry to bug you, but, I just wanted to make sure that you knew. And if there's any way I can help, can I bring something? And then that just opens up a dialogue for them to say, well, what does that mean exactly? Does that
Right.
mean, like, do you eat gluten? Things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Because some
Like,
people just don't know, right?
they don't know. So,
Yeah.
you can give them some suggestions. You can say, well, what are you serving as the main course? And then, hey, this is, if somebody really wants to prepare something for you, well, hey, here's an example of what you could do.
Right.
So you try to make it as easy for them as possible. And I know that's a lot of work, but we're doing it for the animals, right? We're doing it to create a better world for the animals. And this is a wonderful form of activism.
Right. Exactly. A little bit of effort goes a long way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. I know we're running a little bit close to time. I have a couple of extra little questions we had submitted.
Yeah.
If you're okay with, we might go a little bit over. Are you okay with staying a couple of minutes?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
sounds. I've got a fun one. Alexis submitted this one. She
Okay.
said, "How do you respond to people who say, 'Oh, I could never go vegan. I just love cheese too much?'"
Yeah, yeah. And
For the
usually they
one, a
say
thousand times
I love my cheese too much.
yeah,
They always say my cheese.
my cheese. Yeah, the
Yeah.
possessive. Don't take it away from me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the snarky side of me is like, well, the cows love their calves a bit more than you love your cheese.
Right.
But the diplomat in me would say, yeah, wow, I really felt the same way as you. Like, I loved cheese. And then, oh my God, one day I saw this video. I saw this video of a calf being torn away from their the mother cow. And this calf bellowed, I think, they said for 2 weeks. And I was just like, that's it for me. There's no cheese that tastes good enough for that kind of like suffering.
Right.
And the wonderful thing is, since then, there's so many amazing vegan cheeses out there. And I'm as real as possible. I say, 5 years ago, it was terrible. But
Right.
now, oh my God, there's so many, and I will give them a list. In fact, if they're good friends, I'm delivering them some cheese the next day, some vegan cheese the next day.
Yeah.
So again, bring it back to you and your experience. I mean, unless you were born vegan, you've probably been through a lot of the similar
Mhm.
things that other people are struggling with.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. Like, I find when I share my own personal experience, it seems more authentic and less preachy almost. I know people are afraid of
Yeah.
coming across or telling people they need to do better or be a better person. It can be
Yeah.
very offensive almost, or on the
Mm.
offense, I should say, is what I meant for it to come across as. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a really, really good point.
well, you really disarm people when you bring it back to yourself and
Hmm.
your personal journey, and to admit that maybe it wasn't easy for you, and to remind them that you were once them.
Right.
And remind
Yeah.
yourself, first of all, that you were once
Hmm.
them, because then that helps with the conversation. That takes away the judgment factor. Anytime I'm sort of getting up on my high horse, I think, oh, girl, you were eating
Right.
animals for, a lot of years
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
you had, the guts to do this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a bad person. I just for whatever reason, I couldn't get it enough to make that change. Okay. And
Right.
so just having that understanding, and then speaking from that place,
Hmm.
speaking from the place like, yeah, wow, I love to tell people that I was the biggest meat eater you'd probably ever met. I mean, I
Hmm.
loved steak. I loved KFC. I mean, people used to make fun of how much I loved meat. And now I
Right.
say, well, I always had a strong taste for meat because I love protein. And now I'm a big protein eater. I'm a big tempeh and a tofu eater, a seitan, all that sort of thing.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's just whenever you can identify with them and make them feel like you're not on a pedestal, and
Mhm.
looking down at them.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had another question that was kind of similar.
Yeah.
How to take a nuanced approach when someone says something like, oh, well, I just buy free range eggs, or I only
Yeah.
buy from local producers. I don't support factory farming. I take this step, I'm doing this for my journey.
Hmm.
How do you respond to that in a way where it's frustrating to hear, right? 'Cause it's like you're
Yeah.
so close to getting it. What do you recommend is a good nuanced way to approach that for people?
Well, again, first of all, I try to acknowledge where these steps are coming from, because that's what we want to amplify. That's what we want to grab in them, and we want to free up even more.
Right.
And so the first thing is, yeah, I understand that. I get that. I had the same experience. I was buying free range eggs at one point, before I went fully vegan. But then I found out that there really aren't any sort of overseeing bodies that actually keep track of who's doing what.
Right.
And I talk about how a company can claim their eggs are free range even if they've got an arena of 10,000 chickens, and there's one little door with one little outside area. And so I just explain that to them. I just insert that doubt, and I just go, yeah. And I really say, yeah, the industry's tricky like that. Like, I really acknowledge that it's not easy to figure this shit out.
Right.
Okay. So to not say, well, you're dumb, that's dumb, like, there's no such thing as free range. And again, I just pull to some of the things that connected to me and resonated with me. And I also consider my audience, and I also think about what appeals to them and what interests them. I mean, if they're very into social justice issues,
Mhm.
maybe I'll take that slant. If they're into health, I'm going to talk about all the antibiotics that these animals still have to have, even in this environment. I'll talk about how no matter where they were raised, they're going to end up being killed in the same, federal slaughterhouse with the same amount of terror. And they're almost all babies when they're killed. Okay. Almost every animal that we eat is killed by 2 years of age. Okay. And most of them before 6 months of age. So, those are some of the things. And again, you need to do it from like, well, blah, blah, not from this place, but from like, I got caught by that too. And unfortunately that's like, it's just not, it doesn't help. And one of the other nuanced things I say is, the fact is, if we had animals really free range, truly free range, spread out, a small sort of production, family farms like what we had in, earlier in the last century,
Mhm.
we'd need several Earths to support that. Okay. The amount of animal products that people now eat is far too overwhelming to be able to produce not using intensive farming. Okay.
Right.
So there's no way around it. So I often say, hey, instead of the free range, just cut down. Okay.
Right.
Even if you're not ready to go vegan, cut down. That is far better than trying to find happy meat.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so giving them a solution, giving them an intermediary step, so that you're not just saying nope, no good, go vegan. You're saying, you know what? No, honestly, it's a sham.
Mhm.
But what isn't a sham is cutting down your consumption. That's going to actually make a difference.
Right. Well, and that's the
Yeah,
thing. These people are the ones we really want to spend time and care with because they're already taking
yeah,
those steps, right? You don't want to alienate
yeah,
them, really. Again, yeah, treat them with kindness. And maybe, yeah, they just need that information, right? They're just like, oh, I've never thought about it that way before.
yeah.
That's such a good answer.
And
Um,
people need information in a way that doesn't make their guard go. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Like, that's unfortunately what so many of us do, because again, rightfully so. I mean, what we're talking about here is incredibly an incredible amount of suffering. 70 billion animals a year killed for food, just land animals we're talking, and then into the trillions when we start talking about marine life. And so I get it. I get the absolute desperateness of this all. But the fact is, we need to build as many bridges as possible as quickly as we can. And we can't build bridges when somebody puts up a blockade right away. Okay, so we've got to find a way to get people to understand we're not the enemy and we don't think they're the enemy. Okay, that again, working like you are a potential ally. I see the good in you. I know when you have the information and the connections and the bandwidth that I know where you're going to go with this.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, coming with kindness, right? That's what I always hear from you. And I think that's also important. So, so I know we're running a little bit over, but I did have one final question for you.
Yeah.
Because it's so important for everybody. It's what you could do a whole hour talking about just this one, but it would be how to help vegans process the pain and some of the traumatic feelings that can come about from understanding what happens to animals, the grieving that they feel when they see videos, when they hear the news. Again, you could talk for a long time about this, but any helpful tips and tricks for processing that pain, I think people would really appreciate.
Yeah, this is really my jam. I really believe that this is a key thing for animal advocates, because as I just mentioned, I mean, what we're dealing with is staggering. It's this incredible mountain that feels like we're never going to be able to climb sometimes. I mean, when we just tune in for a second and think about how many animals were just killed in that last second, I mean, it can devastate you. And you need to be devastated sometimes. Okay. That's the short answer. But my advice is that you create regular space and regular practices to work through the devastation. Okay. So, I have what I call, a daily practice where I do different things. But as far as the images, the information I take in very regularly. I sometimes, do produce undercover videos. So I'm pouring through the worst of the worst sometimes. I'm definitely have a lot of stuff going through my filter. And I know, there's only so much that I can compartmentalize before I have to take some time and I need to work through it. So how does one work through it? I'll just go through really quickly. Okay. Right. So I would suggest that you have a couple of practices in which you're able to, I call it process it, but it really is just about feeling it and letting it move through you and out of you. That might be just, stream of consciousness writing. Okay. And these can be practices that you have woven into your everyday life. That's what I recommend. That's what I have. Or they might be just practices that you grab onto when you feel like you've hit the floor. Okay. When you've been doubled over, with this stuff. And so stream of consciousness writing is great. Talking it out is so important with somebody who actually understands, okay? Or a really good therapist or a really good coach and that understands. And I am such a fan of physicality, okay? Because our thoughts and our perceptions become emotions, and those emotions, they change our body, okay? They take up resonance in our body. So sometimes it's not enough to just sort of let go of the thinking. We have to let go in the body. There's a saying that your issues are in your tissues, okay? And so the idea of even just if something has overtaken you and you're just feeling either shut down or you're feeling so angry or you're just downed in grief, get up and just feel it, breathe into it, and then shake the hell out of it, just shake everything or punch or stomp, get angry. Or if you're grieving, drop to the floor and wail, do something. This is real. This pain is real. It has to go somewhere. Okay. And so I've been talking all about how it's important for us to be diplomatic and kind and build bridges. But the fact is there is deep suffering and grief that we are all taking in on a regular basis. And in order to be that positive, loving, illuminated energy, we need to go into the pain. We need to excavate. We need to find ways to move through it. Okay. I do something called cathartic cardio. So I love running. and I have a playlist for rage, I have a playlist for grief, I have a playlist, you know, for whatever.
Right.
And before I run, I go, is there something that I'm like holding on to? Is there something I need to work through? I put the music on and I run into it. Like I feel it. I let it kind of go over my body. I run into it, you know, and eventually after a few songs, it's released a little bit. Okay. And so you can do that with anything. You can do that with any sort of cardio. You can do that with, you can put a piece of music on and you can just, like I said, just go for it physically in whatever way amplifies that feeling. But whatever you can, always give yourself some space, to process this. And one other thing I'll say, Reed, is, sometimes if we're incredibly sensitive to this pain, it's really important to be very deliberate about when you take in tough graphics or tough information. Okay, like I will basically assemble a bunch of things that I know I need to look at, just because that's my responsibility as a citizen, trying to help animals. And what I'll do is I'll collect them, and then I will center myself. I will do it in a safe place, not on the TTC, not while I'm at a dinner party. I will center myself. I will make sure I feel safe, and then I will go through it. So I have the space to cry, to get angry, to do whatever work I need to do to be able to get through this. And so it's so important that you don't just go on aimlessly on social media and let stuff assault you. Okay. That you get very deliberate about it. It's important to take in this information. Like I said, it is, I feel like, our duty, not all the time. And if you're especially sensitive to graphic material, you don't need to go there. If you're already committed and you're already a committed advocate, you don't need to go there. But for the rest of us, we need to be very careful about when and how we take in that information and make sure we have the space and practices to process it.
Beautifully said. Absolutely true. Couldn't agree more. Kimberly, thank you so much for being here. I think we've reached the end of our time, but I so appreciate you coming here, especially because I know you so well. Just to plug one of your projects, we work together on the Animal Justice Academy, which, by the way, everybody watching, first of its kind, completely free animal advocacy training program, all online. Still running. You can sign up now. I highly recommend you go over there. Everything Kimberly's talking about and more, you get a wealth of information on there. All free.
That pain processing thing we just talked about, we have a whole module on that, for example. And we have a whole module on how to free range, how to handle all these questions. Like we have modules on everything. So and Ree, you were really instrumental in helping build the Animal Justice Academy. It's a wonderful community, really full of kind, brilliant, again, bridge building people. And we really invite you to join it. If you come to animaljusticeacademy.com, you can sign up for free.
Absolutely. And I was going to say as well, where can all of our viewers find you? Anything we want to plug, and in your socials, your website?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can check me out. I'm at kimberlycarroll.com. I'm at Coach Kimberly Carroll here on Instagram. You can find my page under Coach Kimberly Carroll on Facebook. And those are sort of where I'm most active. And there's always exciting things. We often in Animal Justice Academy do these kind of Q&As where you can actually jump on the line with me and talk through things. And Animal Justice is doing some really exciting things, especially with the election right now. We're doing, in fact, Rhiannon, I have to share something. We're doing an animal an animal issues debate for the election on Sunday at 7 p.m.
I saw it. Everybody go check it out. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Go to animaljustice.ca to get information on that. And we hope you'll all join us for that.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly, for being here.
Thank you,
your words
Rhiannon.
of wisdom. Really appreciate it.
Thanks to everybody who joined us.
I was going to say, for everyone being here, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. This is just one live of many that we've been doing. We've got one more tonight, actually, coming up right after we're done here, 8 to 9 p.m. It's with folks from the Social Herbivore. Going to be talking about vegan wine and entertaining. Very exciting. And we have
Priya.
Well, Priya. She's going to be here. I want to take a final moment with everybody on here, just let you know we are doing Vets Food Fest in person again this year. Obviously, COVID safe and everything, but we're very, very excited to do that. And we are currently doing a fundraiser for that as well to help cover the cost of hosting that live. You know, if anybody wants to support, we really appreciate it. The link for that is in our bio, in our link tree. You know, we're putting it on for free for everybody, so it's as accessible as possible. So to keep it free for years to come, we really hope if you're able to that you can donate and help support. So again, thank you so much, Kimberly, for being here.
Well, thank you to TVA and you know, and everybody. You know, let's not forget it's been tough for TVA during COVID. This is a really important time to support a really wonderful organization.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you, Kimberly, and thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay, shaking it out. See ya.
Shake it out, everybody. Bye.